What is up, everybody? Welcome back to Crunch Time. Round one of the NBA playoffs just wrapped up this afternoon. At the time of recording, it is June 6, 2021. Last game, LA Clippers overtaking the Dallas Mavericks in a 7-game series. First time in NBA history that the road team won in the first 6 games. But the Clippers finally got that pivotal Game 7 win in Staples Center. So, with that being said, guys, this has been, I've never been more excited for playoff basketball than I have been this year. Crowds are coming back. We got MSG popping at almost 20,000 people. I'm sorry, Yusuf. But anyway, we're going to get right into our first topic. 3 biggest surprises of the first round. We can talk about what series shocked us, anything about the players, what's going on. So, Yusuf, I'm going to give you the floor on that one. What were your 3 biggest surprises of the round one in the NBA playoffs?
All right. First off, of course, we got to talk about the series that happened already. The Clippers versus Mavs. Personally, I thought this was going to be the go-to series where Luka's going to finally prove hey, I'm a serious contender here. Don't write me out of the books already. I'm here to work. He proved it literally time and time again. He was going to pull this off and just shock us over Kawhi, who basically is unstoppable. And of course, playoff P, who also, I mean, he so hit or miss, but honestly, Kawhi came in clutch with 74 or 76 total points in the last 2 game series. This man knows the clutch. I was impressed. It had me wanting more, and I'm glad they pulled it through. But the second one, it's gonna have to go for the Nuggets and Portland Trail Blazers. I mean, honestly, it all comes down to this. I love Dollar Dame to death. Don't get me wrong, this man is absurd, but it's time for him to start thinking of another journey outside of Portland. I did hear he wants Jason Kidd to join him as a head coach, but personally, this is probably the most critical series for Dollar Dame. Well, Damian Lillard, but he wound up messing that up. But Denver, Denver's one of those complete teams, even without Jamal Murray, that they basically couldn't handle it. There's nothing else to say. Jokic came in, everybody else came into their roles, and they proved us wrong and beat it in game 6. And then my third one, I leave it up in the air, but I got to talk about the Wizards and the Sixers on this one. I love the Wizards. I love Westbrook. I love Bradley Beal, but at that point, they still didn't have enough firepower to take on Embiid and Ben Simmons. There was just too much. And of course, the fans made it known as well. And I know they were morally upset, but it's coming to that point where Russell Westbrook has to think to himself, I may not be that go-to guy anymore. I may not be that guy that they actually need. I actually have to come into the role. Give or take, you guys can correct me on this. They are thinking about potential moves to bring in more players. I heard Dennis Schroeder was one, Kawhi Leonard was one, but those were rumors.
Russell Westbrook still thinks he's Michael Jordan.
He does. Well, honestly, man, I love the triple doubles, but you also got to realize if they're not producing you wins, then what's the point? But those are my top 3 for now. I got some comments, but I'm gonna leave it up to you guys afterwards. So, Jack, and my boy wind up muting himself. That is hilarious.
Second time in 2 episodes. I forgot the mute button existed. All right. Anyway, so Yusuf, I agree with you 100% on most of your comments, especially when you're talking about Russell Westbrook. Now, the thing about Westbrook is the dude's still a triple-double machine. Obviously, he puts his numbers up. I actually saw a meme the other day. It was something about when he starts playing in the late fall up until maybe the late winter, people are like, this guy is the worst player in the history of the NBA because this man cannot get it done in the early months of the season. The Wizards were not looking too hot. They had a horrible start to the year. I think it was like what, 4-15 they started, something like that. It was not good at all. This man picked it up towards the end. Russell Westbrook has to learn how to be a year-round good player. And I think that if he can do that, I think the Wizards would have been better suited for maybe a 4 or 5 seed. But I do also agree with you on that. They need another piece right now because Westbrook is past his prime. Bradley Beal is probably in his prime right now, but he can't get it done without, more pieces on the team. So I completely agree with you on that.
So I gotta give you a question like this. Like, if, for example, Bradley Beal, he's basically the second guy that's over there, arguably the first go-to guy over there in the Wizards. Like, do you believe like it's coming to that point where Bill's considering like maybe the Wizards aren't the best team for him, or is it more of just like, I'm gonna duke this out, I'm gonna trust in the management, I want to stay with the Wizards? Because from the looks of it, it did not seem like he was happy about it.
Well, I know especially early on in the season, he really showed his frustration. He was balling out in the first 20 games of the year, and the results were not coming in because of Westbrook's poor play at the start of the year, and a lot of other pieces not doing too well. I think Beal's going to stay with the Wizards. I don't know what it is, but a lot of guys seem to stay loyal to this team. It wasn't John Wall's fault that he left this team. I think, what did he get traded? He got released, one of the two. I know that
He got traded from the Houston trade, I believe.
he got traded for Westbrook. That's right. So, at the end of the day, I think that people like staying in Washington. I don't exactly know why, but I think that Beal's going to stay. I think they're going to try to get another piece. They could get Kawhi. I know there's like talk going around that if the Clippers don't make it to at least the Western Conference Finals, then there's going to be this big sweepstakes for Kawhi Leonard. And I have to agree on that because we know how the NBA works these days. Nobody's loyal because everybody wants to be part of a super team because you're not going to win a ring unless if you don't have 2 top 10 guys on your team, you have to have at least like 3 top 20 players on your team. That's just how it works now. You're not going to win a ring any other way. So I think that the Wizards are going to try to pursue a third big piece in the offseason. I think that they have to if they want to keep Westbrook and Beal on this team for years to come. And if they want to even, to sniff even the second round of the NBA playoffs. So I completely agree with you. But I think that Beal's going to stay. So that's going to lead me on to my 3 biggest surprises. A little more mainstream. I know you kind of went on the down low with the series right there, especially like that Blazers Nuggets series. I was a little surprised you pulled that one out of your hat. But I'm gonna go with my 3 right now. First one, Bucks and Heat. The Heat are bubble frauds, gentlemen, and I don't think there's any question about that. Also, I want to apologize for saying that Myers Leonard was still in the Heat in my last episode. It's been eating away at me for a week and a half, and I just have to address it. So let's get right down to it. My boy Bam Adebayo, down on his scoring numbers. Tyler Hero, down on his scoring numbers by almost 5 points, no less. Jimmy McBuckets, down on his scoring numbers from last season in the playoffs. This is not I don't know what it is. This is almost virtually the same roster that we saw last year, but this is not the same Heat team. And maybe not having Myers Leonard had something to do with that. Maybe the Heat were bubble frauds. I don't know. But this isn't the same Miami Heat team that we saw last year in the bubble. I like the culture there. As far as like it's kind of more like a grit and grind kind of team, because I've said this before. I don't think that Jimmy Butler is like an all-pro, all-star kind of player. I think he's a star. Don't get me wrong on that, but like he's like Derrick Rose is averaging virtually the same amount of points that this guy is, and we're calling Jimmy Butler like years ahead of guys like Derrick Rose, who's well past his prime. I just don't understand why people are thinking that. So overall, I was really surprised that they didn't at least get one game in there. I thought this was going to be besides the Knicks Hawks, I thought this was going to be one of the series to watch, and we'll get to that. But just a great game 1. He got absolutely dominated in games 2 and 3. Game 4 wasn't anything to really, look at as far as impressive performances on the Miami Heat side of things. So that really kind of disappointed me. Second one, Yusef, I'm sorry. Knicks Hawks. I thought the Knicks were going to put up a better fight than this. Now, on paper, I can see how the Hawks won in 5 games. if you were looking at this last season and you said Julius Randle led the Knicks to the playoffs, you'd slap me in the face, because nobody thought that he was going to have the season that he did, winning most improved player. Derrick Rose was balling out this year, averaging, I think, 20 points per. I think he was averaging around 20 points per game in the playoffs this year. He kind of carried the load in the playoffs, because I knew there were going to be two big tests for Julius Randle once the playoffs started. Number one, there were going to be a lot more fans in the stands. And number two, the playoff atmosphere, which he has never really had the chance to experience in his NBA career to this point. He flopped on both ends. I think he had a really good game too. I thought the Knicks had more momentum going into the series than the Hawks did. But overall, I just don't think, like, I thought that MSG, they were trying to carry the Knicks, and it just ended up not working. Trae Young balled out in that series. Clint Capella did great. A lot of great pieces on this Hawks team. Could be interesting to watch. We just saw they beat Philly today, game one. Now, that could be their only win of the series, and honestly, I think it's going to be. I think the media is going to blow it up like, oh, the Hawks are going to the Eastern Conference Finals. No. It's going to be Sixers and whoever wins this Bucks-Nets series. But anyway, moving on. So, number 3, let's just get right down to it, because this is the one that everybody probably thought we were going to be talking about. Suns in 6. Now, I made a $100 bet on this game, and I won. Or on the series, and I won. Devin Booker, balling out. CP3, despite the shoulder injury he accrued in game 1, balling out. Jay Crowder, of all people, going off in that series. I mean, Jay Crowder's always been, a great playoff presence, but he outdid himself in this series. Obviously on the Lakers side of things, they didn't have Anthony Davis for about half of this entire series, and that really kind of led itself into this. But I mean, this is still LeBron, I mean, this is a team that had a lot of momentum. They didn't carry themselves like a 7 seed, because we all know that they're better than that. But overall, I think it actually shows. I think LeBron, and you know what? I could regret saying this in a year or two. I think LeBron is finally showing his age. And I think that he can't. I just don't know. I know he had ankle problems going into this series, but I still don't think that he can carry a team anymore like he used to back in, the 2000s with the Cavs, or even in, his second stint with the Cavs in the 2010s. I just don't see it anymore. So really, it was, you know what? Yusef, I don't like LeBron. Especially from an on-court standpoint. I think he's a baby. I think he literally throws up his hands when a guy breathes on him. So I don't respect him, but I will say, I mean, I respect what he's done, but just not as a Laker. So overall, I was happy to see the Suns win. Huge shock. I thought it was going to go to 7 games, especially since game 6 was in Staples Center. Lakers looked like they could have come back in that series. They didn't, but overall, Suns in 6, great series to watch. Big surprise to me, and I think it was to you guys as well. But that's up to you to talk about. Dan, what do you got? Or Yusef, actually, I want to get your comments. You look like you've been waiting to say something that I want to hear.
Yeah, I know. Like, I know you like Trae Young more. I know you're not really a Knicks fan, because I know you're a Brooklyn fan. We're still repping the blue and orange over there in New York. Just letting you know. But I'm honestly proud of my Knicks, what they did so far. Like, this is like the first time in like 8 years they wind up making it to the playoffs, and they managed to get a playoff win, which I was pretty happy with. Wish it was more, but you have to realize at the end of the day, this is a very inexperienced team, and they're young too. Like, this is what a lot of Knicks fans, including myself, we're kind of like waiting for. Like, if they take that next leap or they overachieve again, who knows what we can do. And crucially, like, they did it at the right moment, especially with this free agency that's going on. We don't know who's going to be out there or what other role players we can get, but I'm 100% happy about what they did. Congrats to Trae Young. I'm not going to lie. He did ball out in MSG. He's the new king of New York, quote unquote, but I like to see what he can do against the Sixers. But also with your comments with LA, honestly, you may or may not be right, because personally LeBron likes to prove us wrong every single day. I just feel like this team was just not up to pair to get up to the championship type level. Like, they gave up their entire like depth and bench last year. I believe Dwight Howard was a critical blow. JaVale McGee. Who else was on that team? Danny Green and like a few others. Like they all had a specific role. Where as this team right now, they had like what 4 to 5 centers. Dennis Schroeder, like they basically were missing like holes. Like they instead of like adding to the depth like they actually needed, they actually replaced it with more holes, if that makes any sense. And I just feel like personally, like they should not have been in the playoffs. Like they probably should have lost in the play-in tournament. But we'll see what happens this offseason. Now, Dan, sorry to interrupt you, but
You're good.
what's your top three?
I appreciate you letting me in here. So I just wanted to comment real quick, just to refer. All right, so for Russell Westbrook, I know we were talking big about him. So the guy just needs to like realize that he's past the curve now. His prime's done, and his jump shot is totally fallen off. So Russell Westbrook stats for the series: 28 of 84, that's 33%, and he's still trying to jack up threes for some reason. 5 of 20, 25%. So basically, that just means he's not ever going to make a three unless it's game 3. He made 3 of 6, and game 5, 2 of 5. So kind of like some trash time in game 5 there, though. So yeah, the guy's just not getting it done anymore. He just needs to figure out how to kind of, I don't want to say become a role player, but understand he can't just be a ball dominant guy anymore and just learn how to cut without it. Let's give some shout out. Let's give some praise to my guy, not getting enough praise, Nate McMillan of the Hawks. I mean, that team, they were the worst team in the basketball. And then they hired Nate McMillan, and now look at them. They just won game 1 in the second round. I'm not saying it's all Nate McMillan, but like that defense went from like last to top 10. And I mean, that offense did the same thing. So Nate McMillan, I mean, that guy's a great coach, phenomenal coach. I don't think he's getting enough credit, honestly, from the media or people. And then I wanted to say if you look at the teams in the bubble last year, the teams that made a deep run, okay, you got the Celtics out, Heat out, Lakers out. The Nuggets, I mean, Jokic is just, man, the guy's different. I mean, he just keeps going to Jokic. And even the Raptors, I mean, look at them. They had to move to Florida, and that just fell apart. So, listen, they had a 71-day offseason, the Lakers and the Heat. It's just, I don't think there's enough, like, emphasis placed on that. Like, you look at a team like the Warriors, how much time they had off. They didn't even make the bubble. Teams like that, they had so much time off. So when I look at the Lakers and the Heat, I just think, I mean, you have 71 days. That's the shortest offseason of all time by a long shot. So I just feel kind of bad for them, and I especially the Heat. Dragic is kind of on the downslope of his career. The bubble definitely helped them. Jack. That's for sure. They were definitely the bubble is just different. I mean, Iguodala was hitting shots he never hits really, but and they had Jay Crowder too. That's another guy that lost. That was big. But yeah. So anyway, so my top 3 right here. All right. So first, I'm gonna talk about Yusef's Knicks, the New York Knickerbockers here. Spike Lee just needs to kind of shut up, I think. I think he just kind of gets everybody riled up, and then Reggie Miller gives them the old. I think he got Trae Young a little riled up, maybe, and Trae Young said, "All right, I'm gonna just go destroy your team." But listen, Yusef and I were talking before. I mean, Julius Randle, RJ Barrett. I mean, Tom Thibodeau played these guys into the dirt to try to. I mean, dude, like they're a 4 seed. And I think he could have let up a little bit on them. Like, it's not like they were in danger of not making the playoffs or something. I mean, they played them. Julius Randle played the most minutes in the league. I mean, you could just tell this guy was fatigued. He wasn't really driving to the basket. He was settling for step back threes that he wasn't going to make. And I just think he was kind of worn down there. They don't have a lot of bench depth. Like Yusef said, they're young. I mean, they're rolling out Taj Gibson still. I mean, listen, that guy. I think Tom Thibodeau's a little biased because he was on the Bulls with him, but Taj Gibson, I think his time's just about up. I mean, he's a good rebounder, but that's about all he's going to give you. And he'll give you some, intensity. And Derrick Rose, I'll give him credit, man. I was never a big fan of Derrick Rose, but he's turned it around. He stayed healthy, and he was honestly probably the best scorer in that series for the Knicks. I mean, he was on the bench to start, and then they started him. So, but the Hawks, I'll tell you what, this team is dangerous. This team is really dangerous. Like Yusef said, they're young, they're up and coming, and I don't agree, Jack. If Joel Embiid, if that injury is serious, which I'm not sure. I mean, obviously, there's like, he put up 38 today, so you could say whatever about it. But they didn't have DeAndre Hunter today, the Hawks. He was injured, and that's a starter for them, and they still won. So I think, listen, whoever wins the Bucks Nets series is going to the finals. I mean, that's just guaranteed. Like this other series, they're just playing for second place in the Eastern Conference. Let's be honest here. But I would like to see the Hawks make it. I think they could give a little, a little something. I think more than a Sixer, because I just think Joel Embiid, I think he might be more hurt than we think. And but hey, listen, all I'm saying is Danny Green, if this guy wins another NBA title, is he a Hall of Famer? What's that, 3 in 3 years? Is Danny Green a Hall of Famer? Are we talking about Danny Green in the Hall of Fame? I mean, Spurs, Lakers.
I don't know if he's in the Hall of Fame, but his agent is definitely a very smart man.
Sixers. I mean, this guy just keeps putting it in. I mean, this guy is just a grizzled veteran who knows how to win, I guess, man. I mean, whew. But no, I think I like the Knicks though, but I think they overachieved, and I think they'll go back down to earth next year unless they pick up some pieces, because they're just not. I mean, Julius Randle and RJ Barrett, they just can't sustain that. RJ Barrett was a no-show. I mean, honestly, in the series, they never played this much. Those guys have never played this much in their career, so it showed. I'll go Lakers Suns. So LeBron's legacy. I mean, people are kind of talking crazy. They're saying like his legacy's tarnished now or something. Listen, the guy has nothing left to prove. I mean, he's won 4 championships. It's really all he needs. He doesn't need any more. I mean, the guy's done it all and back. I agree with Jack. I think this is the first time that we know LeBron is he's not going downhill, but I'm not going to be like Max Kellerman. He's falling off the cliff, Tom Brady, and he goes wins in the Super Bowl. But, I definitely think LeBron can't carry a team anymore. That's for sure. I mean, the guy's 36 and a half. I mean, Michael Jordan was playing for the Wizards, he was 36. I mean, the guy has done it all, and it's just got to be AD. It's just AD got to stay healthy. I don't know if AD's got to eat better. I seen him eating some chips when he was playing Warzone with Swag, so maybe, I don't know, he's got to lay off the chips a little bit. I don't know, maybe ask LeBron what kind of diet LeBron's on, because that guy just keeps going. So, but AD's definitely got to do something, man, but to stay healthy. And like Yusef said, the Lakers, how many centers do you need? I mean, they had Drummond, who just showed us is not really that good. I mean, grab you some rebounds, but that's just not going to get it done. Then the Suns exposed them. I mean, you look at a team, he's better than Gasol on paper. Like, if you're trying to build a team, you're going to take Drummond, obviously, over Gasol. But Gasol in a series was better than Drummond, no doubt about it. And Montrezl Harrell, I mean, that guy goes from 6th man of the year, and he didn't even play in the series. So, and that's one thing I like about playoff basketball is these guys who start all game, or like Patrick Beverley started every game this year that he played in, and he didn't even play in the series because Luka Doncic was like, you can't have him guard him. So, and I wanted to talk about Kyle Kuzma and Dennis Schroeder. I mean, these guys are Kyle Kuzma is supposed to be like, I saw this one thing, and it was Magic Johnson's jersey, Kobe Bryant's jersey, and then it was Kyle Kuzma standing there. What in the tarnation?
Yeah, they believe like they're the future of the Lakers, which honestly,
Kyle Kuzma is the future on the bench.
They're not proving their worth or value right now. I'm just being honest.
Look at Kyle Kuzma. This man played 126 minutes. He put up 38 points. He shot 29% for the series. I mean, you look at this guy. He played 18 minutes, game 6, put up 2 points. Game 5, he played all right. I mean, game 2, 19 minutes, 2 points. Game 1, 19 minutes, 0 points. I mean, like, bro, what are you even in there for then? And then you look at Dennis Schroeder. What in the world happened to Dennis Schroeder? First game, games 1 through 3, this man played 100 minutes, 58 points, shot 56%, had 20 free throw attempts, and shot 40% from downtown. This man was balling. I mean, his hezzy dribbles, he was putting defenders to sleep, just driving right by him. Here comes game 4 and 6. He played 95 minutes, shot 9 of 36, 25%. Okay, so that fell off, what was that, 30%? He had 0 free throws game 4 and 5, and he shot 6 in game 6, and he went 4 of 18 from 3, 22%. So my question is Dennis Schroeder, did he choke? Or is he just an ultimate, or is AD that important to Kuzma and Schroeder?
So,
or was it just these role players didn't get it done?
I'll be honest. No, you said you go first.
All right. Honestly, going from that, like I've been saying this since they got AD. The only way for LA to be this dominant is if they have AD healthy. Like he kind of proved, like once he's gone, like honestly, I saw Clint Capella go off, and I was watching his battles down low. Clint Capella had no one to really like mess with him. Like he was their interior.
You talking about DeAndre Ayton?
What's up?
You talking about DeAndre Ayton?
Oh yeah, my mistake.
You talking about my man's still in the Knicks series. Clint Capella's giving him nightmares.
Well,
He's dunking all over Tom Gibson.
He still haunts my dreams, man.
Yusef, your PTSD is showing.
He's haunting my dreams. But anyway, DeAndre Ayton's interior defense, actually, he kind of proved like no one can stop him on the Lakers. Yeah. And to this point, like he kind of proved it. Like I seen LeBron drive to the paint time and time again. And look who was there. Ayton. Ayton was right there. He did his job, did his role. They got the rebound, beautiful. They got the block, beautiful. They got him to force a charge, beautiful. Like he was there in those moments where AD would have honestly helped them spread the floor to where they had those wide open opportunity lanes. And what kind of bothers me is this man is not staying healthy. Like he even said, like in high school, he grew 10 inches in the summer. Yeah. That's like 3 months. And that's absurd. I'm surprised like he managed to like cooperate with all that.
Yeah.
But I think it's just at that moment, I think maybe it could be genetics. I could be wrong. It could be potentially father time finally getting to him. But like it's showing the injury bug's showing more and more. And if I were them, I would start potentially looking for a replacement, not to replace AD, but to have a backup plan at that point. Jack, what do you got to say?
Well, Yusef, I mean, you're right about AD, and I really do think that, the injury bug has really hit him over the past couple of years, but we're not talking enough about the injury bug hitting LeBron, because I remember 2019, I forget exactly what injury it was. I'm not going to pretend that I'm the biggest basketball guy in this group. I'm probably the third out of third, but I do know that the Lakers' chances of making the playoffs in 2019 were hindered because he got hurt late in the season. Same thing happened here. He gets hurt middle of the season, plus AD getting hurt. They went from competing for one of the top 2 seeds in the Western Conference to just fighting to get in. So
LeBron's 35 though.
He is 35, but
AD's like 27 or something.
Yeah, but this man puts $1 million a year into keeping his body in top shape. And you were talking about what his nutrition is. I've heard reports. This man eats horribly. Okay. But because he puts so much money and invests so much in his body, he could eat whatever he wants. If I had as much money as LeBron from endorsements and playing basketball, I would eat 5 donuts a day, but I'd still call my trainer, be like, how can I burn this off? And then Arnold Schwarzenegger would reply, I got you. I'll be there in 5 minutes. Because you know what? He can probably afford to get trained by Arnold Schwarzenegger because this dude is he's the biggest athlete in the world. But you know what? You're right. He is 35, 36. Time catches up with you. AD, you know what? It happens to most big men. Like when I feel like centers are like the running back of the NBA. These guys get hurt a lot quicker because they're so much bigger. Their bodies just can't handle it when they get into later years playing this physical this late into their career. It happened to Yao Ming. You could see. I think Shaq played maybe 5 years more than he should have. I think that after Shaq left the Heat, I think that his best years were obviously behind him. We saw when he was playing with like the Suns and the Celtics and the Cavs. So it's really hard to find longevity in big men these days, whether it be power forwards like AD's, what is he, like 6'11", 7 foot, something around that. He's a big dude. And you know what? It's just genetics. Like Yusuf said, it takes a toll on you eventually. So it doesn't surprise me. And you know what? I wanted to comment on Dennis Schroeder for a minute. I've never believed in Dennis Schroeder. I always feel like this man has way too much hype put into him. Like we always talked about him when he was on the Hawks and the Thunder and everything. And even now, like he's a role player. Like, let's be honest. Okay. This guy would never be worthy of having a star logo next to his name in 2K. Maybe a 3-point logo. I'm being generous here. But never really been a huge believer in Dennis Schroeder. I don't think that he's somebody you should put a lot of hype behind if you sign him. But all in all, you know what? Like age and injuries are just really starting to show on the Lakers. And you know what? I feel like we are kind of sounding like Max Kellerman here. Because I know LeBron's going to probably come back next year, fully healthy, or at least 90, 95%. He says that he's never going to fully recover from this high ankle sprain. I remember he said that a couple of months ago, but you know what? I mean, they're going to come back. They're probably going to make the playoffs as long as he's still as long as he's still playing in LA. But you know what? He can't do it all himself anymore.
This year, the problem with this year was, obviously, besides like not having a lot of fans for most of the games, was the injuries to all the stars in the NBA. I mean, you look at the Nets. I mean, Curry got hurt. LeBron got hurt. The Celtics, Jaylen Brown. I mean, there were so many injuries in the NBA. It was just hard to I think Trae Young got hurt for a while. It was just kind of, it's just so many guys got hurt this year. Embiid obviously missed a ton of games, 20 plus, and it was just nonstop. I mean, Jokic is really the only star who stayed healthy throughout the whole year. So it was definitely a tough year for injuries. I think that played a part in kind of just how fluid the NBA was this year. But I just want to do my last one then. I think for my last one, let's see, who do I want to talk about that last one? I guess we'll just do that's tough. I don't know. I guess we'll do I guess I'll do what Yusef did. I'll do the Clippers Mavericks. Porzingis. I mean, I said before the series started, I said imagine if Luka had a number 2, and I stand by that. Porzingis, I mean, he had a really good January to February in like 2020 or 2019, whatever year it was. He like went off, averaging like 25 a game or something. And in New York, he was pretty good, I mean, besides his injuries, another injury-prone guy. But I just, I mean, I saw Vegas odds today. Porzingis, 14.5. I mean, that's it from the second best scorer in a team. They're only giving him, can he make 14.5? I think he finished with like 16. And it's like, that's it. Like Luka puts up 39 or whatever. I think it was 39 tonight, and they still lose by how many? I mean, they got guy Tim Hardaway Jr. He's a good player. He's a role player though. He's not gonna give you some crazy numbers. Boban, I mean, the guy's just massive. It's the only reason he's NBA. Let's just be honest. It's like 7'5" or something. And you just look at that team and their construction, and they're just not that good. That's why Luka probably has the ball 80% of the time. Like his usage percentage is probably like disgusting in these playoffs. I mean, everything they do is like, okay, we're just gonna run the whole entire offense through Luka, and if he gets hurt, we'll just probably have to forfeit every game because like this guy literally just does everything for them, and they don't have anyone else. He just runs everything for them. And then the Clippers, hey, I'll give them the credit. They were down 2-0, and I think game 3 they were down by like 20 or something. And I'll give them credit. They battled. I mean, we all like to make jokes about the Clippers, but I mean, this was a good regular season team. I know they shot like 70% true shooting percentage or something on the year, which is insane if that's true. So, I mean, this team has the potential. I mean, Patrick Beverley didn't play that series. And, I mean, we know that guy's a bulldog. So, if he's back in next series, he's going to be hungry to make an impact. I'm not saying they're going to – I think they can beat the Nuggets. Listen, the Nuggets, I think if they had Jamal Murray, this team, I think they go finals. I think they're going finals. They were the best team in the NBA with Jamal Murray. Remember when they traded for Aaron Gordon? My God, they were like the friggin' 15, 16 Warriors out there. So, I mean, this team is – the Nuggets are good. I mean, I'm not going to doubt Jokic. I mean, the guy's MVP. He's the best player right now, and I'm not going to doubt him. But I just think – I think for once I actually believe in the Clippers. So now that means they're not going to win and they're going to lose in like 5. So that's good. But I do believe in the Clippers for once. I think playoff P showed up. I'll give him credit. And Kawhi, like Youssef said, this man, I mean, he's not the peak defender he was in San Antonio, but this dude, hey, when you need a bucket, I mean, I'll drop 45 for you. I mean, they were down in game 6, but this man put the team on his back. I mean, he really did. And he said, we're not going home. And Kawhi doesn't want to lose. I mean, he could have checked out and said, I'll just go play for whoever and make a bunch of money or go play for the Nets or something. You know what I'm saying? But he said, I want to win. And he did. I mean, and I'll give the Clippers credit. They battled back this whole series. And not to win a home game through 6 games, either team, that's insane. But, I mean, Staples Center's only had like 8,000 people, I think. So it wasn't anything crazy. And those fans, they're all like, relaxed anyway, you know, in LA. Sorry, anyone who lives in LA, they're just all relaxed and chilling. But yeah, so it was a good series. I mean, I really thought the Luka magic would show up there at the end. But I mean, someone texted me and they said, how long does Luka stay loyal to Dallas? I mean, that's just everything in the NBA now. You lose this. I mean, he's only 22 and they're already talking about Luka going somewhere else. I mean, they got Mark Cuban as the owner. Listen, this guy, he's got a lot of money. So this guy's going to bring in some talent. I mean, Dirk Nowitzki, you know, he was able to win one almost toward the end of his career. So Luka's got plenty of time. Maybe not toward the end of his career, but, you know, past his prime.
So Dan, real quick, I'm gonna be honest.
You're good.
Like, all right, so you said a little bit about loyalty. I caught on to that. Like,
yeah.
Have you feel like the NBA is changing to where it's now like, okay, I get drafted to this team. This isn't the team I'm gonna want to be with, but it's a stepping stone to a bigger franchise. So, in my opinion, do you believe like a lot of the big market teams are gonna start targeting these big stars to attract the attention, attract the revenue now, especially after the 2020 COVID, with like basically everybody kind of like in all sports, they all kind of just plummet. Like there's no coming back.
I look at it and I see, what are you doing for your star? You know, the Bucks went out, they got Drew Holiday, you know, they got PJ Tucker. They're trying to make improvements for Giannis because, you know, he's loyal, he wants to stay. You know, they got a good, solid player, all-star caliber. Chris Middleton had a terrible game 1 against the Nets, so they'll be fine. But you look at like for the Blazers, I mean, they got decent pieces, but their third leading scorer is like Carmelo, who's like 37 coming off the bench. I mean, it's just not going to get it done. You need someone, you know, you need some young guy coming off the bench, man. You need a spark. I mean, they traded Gary Trent Jr., who I was never a big fan of that trade, and I still think it was a bad trade, to be honest with you. And that guy was really balling out for them. So I really think it comes down to, what are you doing for your star? Are you listening to him? I mean, I know it's a different sport, but Sean Watson was saying, like, they're not asking me, who do I want to draft, or who do I think we should sign? Like, I think that's important, especially in the basketball. I mean, football, you got all these players, you know, but basketball, you only have like 10 players really that are relevant on the team. So, and you only have 1 or 2 stars. So if you're not even asking, like if you got Giannis and you're not even bothering asking what he wants, then he's not going to stay for long. You know, like Damian Lillard. I want Jason Kidd, who actually removed his name from the coaching interviews, so he's not actually going to go there now. But it's just interesting because you got to ask these guys, man, what do you want? Who do you want to draft? I mean, obviously, it didn't work for LeBron the first time in Cleveland because they were just like, Chris Bosh was like, I'm not going there. And then they were like, we can get a good coach for you. And he was just like, nah, it's not going to be enough to win me a championship. So I mean,
I gotta agree on you with that. But like, I feel like with the NBA right now, it's all come to that fact of like, once they draft their franchise star, for example, I'll put the Dallas Mavericks on a spot. it was a fair trade either or, if they got Trae Young or if they got Luka Doncic on that
Yeah.
day. But when it all comes down to this, it's basically that ticking time bomb of how long can you keep them around? Like
Yeah.
a lot of these franchise changing stars, they're all starting to second guess themselves around these teams and around these organizations. But you also got to realize, like, they're also requesting a lot of money in return for
Yeah.
something where it probably can flop or it will be sky high. Like for a prime example, I'm not gonna lie, I didn't want to trade Porzingis, but it wound up being the better for us. We traded Porzingis and then Smith-Schroeder for, I guess, a couple of role players and some draft picks. Knicks fans correct me in the comments below, but honestly, they thought like, oh, this is the next like Kobe and Shaq. In other words,
Yeah.
like these are the two new guys you're gonna have to beat. You may beat them in like the semifinals, but you're not gonna beat them like the years after. And Porzingis didn't show up, and Luka wanted that guy.
Yeah.
I assume. So it's all coming down to this: like, are we really gonna pay attention to your franchise stars, or are we just gonna build what the organization as a whole wants to build? Like, Jack, you can pitch in on this too. Viewers in the comment sections below, like, what do you think on this? What is your opinions on it? Like, should franchises begin to actually talk to their go-to stars for what they want in their teams, or should they just stick to what they are, stick to the business part, and just keep doing what they're doing?
All right.
Like,
Let me say this, because I think you're absolutely right. There is like a 2 to 3 year window of guys staying happy where they are. I think a lot of it, and you know what? Correct me if I'm wrong. I think a lot of this started after Kyrie went to Boston, is where I really kind of started to see it, because I think that the super team era really began towards the middle of, or at least like towards the early stages of this Warriors dynasty. Because I remember Kawhi goes to the Celtics. He's there for 2 years. You know, they make the Eastern Conference Finals the first year. They get bounced out by the Cavs.
you meant to
They
say
make these.
Kyrie, by the way.
I did say K. Did I not say Kyrie?
You said Kawhi.
You said
I was-
Kawhi.
I said Kawhi.
I was confused.
Man, too many K's in this league. Too many guys with the K in their first name that are good, except for Kristaps. But anyway, so Kyrie, first season in Boston, makes it to the Eastern Conference Finals with the Celtics. Good pieces around him. They get bounced out by the Cavs. Second season, I don't know if they made it to the second round or not. I don't exactly remember. I'll be completely honest, but I know that they didn't make it to the Eastern Conference Finals.
He was injured. He was injured that year. They got bounced out when Tatum went off. He was injured.
Yeah, but like he gets injured. Like they have Tatum, they have Brown.
That's what I'm saying. He's always injured.
You know, like they have all these guys, and he's like, okay, I'm done, and he just leaves, and then he goes on to Brooklyn. So there's no loyalty in the NBA. It's just all guys who are just trying to form different super teams. My God, the Houston Rockets made an attempt at it. They tried so many different pieces to put around James Harden and just could never find the right guy. You know, the former big three of him, Paul and Capella, couldn't get the job done. Then they tried bringing in Westbrook, and it ended up being even worse. OK3, if you guys, remember that, what ended up being a pretty terrible team. It just doesn't always work, because what you don't consider is the chemistry. Like people thought that OK3 was going to be one of the greatest teams of all time. What was it? It was George, Melo, and Westbrook, and they ended up flopping that season pretty bad. They got bounced by the Jazz in the first round, I think, in 6 games. So, there really is no loyalty. There is no loyalty in the NBA anymore. People aren't waiting more than 2 years to see if guys can build around them. And you know what? Not all teams, especially smaller market teams, have the money for that. Now, I don't think that there's a ton of excuses that can be made for the Mavericks because, like you said, Mark Cuban, he's got the money. He can bring in the talent. But you know what? He's just decided to coast off of this Doncic and Porzingis, parade, which even at their best wouldn't be able to get him past the second round because of other pieces that they have. I thought that this was a very beatable Clippers team on paper. I don't believe playoff P. I think that's just a myth. I don't know. Like if you guys can find him, then please tell me where he is, because I've never seen Paul George in the playoffs. Kawhi Leonard went off. I think he really carried the load for that team. He scored 73 points in the last 2 games of the series, but there's no loyalty, and I think it hurts the league a lot. I was thinking to myself, somehow, if the Bucks win this series against the Nets, that whole Nets core is going to dissolve. At least 1 or 2 of those huge pieces. That's just the way it is. Like, you have to expect things like that. It's either conference finals / NBA finals or bust for most teams that are forming these super teams. So I don't know, just no loyalty.
I think people, like, it comes down to the stars a lot, but I remember on TNT, Barkley and Shaq and Kenny were talking about it, and Barkley, who never won a championship, was trying to make the case that you don't need, you just need a couple stars, and Shaq and Kenny were actually saying that you do need guys who can hit the shot or a shot. And I saw that hugely with the Lakers Suns. I mean, the role players just weren't getting it done for the Lakers. They weren't hitting shots. Their defense was terrible. And these role players for the Suns, man, they were hitting shots. Mikal Bridges, Jay Crowder, Cameron Payne. I mean, that guy balled out once Chris Paul went out. I mean, this guy looked like he was freaking John Stockton or something out there. So, I mean, it comes down to role players. I mean, you look at history like John Paxson, Steve Kerr for Michael Jordan. I mean, there's always solid role players for these guys. And I think if, like, the Clippers, they didn't have any. It was George and Kawhi, and they were just, those two were better than Porzingis and Luka. And Luka pretty much carried for those two. It was just him, basically. And because the role players didn't really come through at all for the Clippers. I mean, other than Reggie Jackson had a couple good games. I mean, Trey Mann, I think, was their third best player, and he barely even played in regular season. So I do have a question for you, Youssef, on the Knicks. As I said, Julius Randle played the most minutes in the NBA. Was he worn down, or is he just not clutch? And do you blame Tom Thibodeau?
Honestly, I feel like I can't. It's like a mixture of both. At the end of the day, like, he kind of, I wouldn't say he failed his team, but he didn't show up. I'm just being honest. He didn't show up at all. But it's also the coach's job to identify that and try and kind of recover from it. Because getting to those points, it's like, honestly,
what happens if you bench a star, Youssef? That's what this conversation is. Benching a star, can it be done? I mean, no matter, say Russell Westbrook for a prime example, keep shooting, and he just keeps missing. What do you do? Can you take him out? Like Monty Williams said, I got to take out Chris Paul if he's hurt.
Uh-huh.
And he wasn't even going to play game 3, and Chris Paul said, no, I'm playing. And he said, oh, okay. So that's what I'm saying.
I think at least in the NBA, I think that the big difference between the NBA and other sports, and when I say other sports, I primarily mean the NFL, is that the players run the team really in the NBA in a lot of cases. So, I mean, you got examples like that, like Westbrook. It's like, oh yeah, buddy, just keep shooting. Even if you're going to pull up from deep and you're only going to hit 20% of your shots, maybe you'll hit 1 or 2. That's just, as a point guard and as a player, that's not the right thing to do. If you're a coach, you got to put your balls in, like, out of your purse and bench guys who are going to do stuff like that.
See, that's where it starts becoming a problem, because then all of a sudden if you're benching your star player, you're not only affecting him, but you're affecting the revenue for that team. You're affecting the fans' point of view. They're gonna basically want you out of their arena at that point. So it all comes down to a money grab. So a lot of these coaches nowadays are now, honestly, they're picking themselves, and like you can tell, like, players are picking certain people here and there. Like, for example, oh, LeBron want Tyronn Lue. Hey, why not this guy? No, Tyronn Lue. For example, when he was in Cleveland, because he knew he can control the team. Now, if he wind up getting any other coach, I feel like a proper coach with a proper mindset, they would have just benched him right on the spot. But that money revenue that they bring to that team, it's just they basically put them in like a purgatory where if they do one small step or like one like wrong move, basically they're out. Like they'll just find someone, they'll find a yes man or a yes coach.
No coach is benching LeBron though, Yusuf. Let's be honest.
Well, you're.
Let's be honest. Let's not get crazy and say bench him. No one's benching LeBron. Then you're talking. Then you get. No. It's like, come on now.
The only person I can see doing that is maybe Popovich. Maybe.
Yeah, you know what? I was about. I was like, this guy is gonna say. I know he's gonna say Popovich. Bro. Popovich is the only man who would have the guts to bench LeBron. I feel
maybe the guts, but he wouldn't do it. That's just a bad plan.
But LeBron's just an example. Like, honestly, like it's like Jack said, it's a players run league. Like they're gonna want who they want at the end of the day. Like the coach is just there just to be there at that point. It's basically we're watching professional street ball, like or organized semi-pro at the end of the day, if you really want to put it that way. But personally, like that's why I feel like a lot of sports are trying not to get into that, because what that brings is a lot more drama. Of course, it's going to be amazing for the sport or for the sport. Like, for example, with the NFL, we're seeing all this dramatic stuff. That the only reason why that's happening is because the NBA's doing it and they're seeing what they can get. So it's only a matter of time for other sports start catching on, and then they start producing like drama like we see every day in the NBA. Like I guarantee you, back in 2010, guys, like we didn't know what was going to happen with all the stuff that we heard in the offseason, all the rumors, all the trade scenarios, mock drafts, even with this year. Like we don't even know who's going number 1 overall in the NBA draft. Really, we don't even know who's going to be like the go-to free agent for this offseason. But the media keeps catching on to it. They keep going on and on and on. And honestly, like, it's all we gotta do is wait. It's all in due time at this point.
Can't say you're wrong on that one, buddy. It's kind of disgusting to me that, like, you know what? I don't even view NBA coaches as important pieces to a team. And, you know, you can make all the arguments like, oh, but like, you know, guys like Popovich and like some of the other greats like George Karl, what was it, Phil Jackson, like these guys. You don't think that Michael Jordan could have won 6 rings without Phil Jackson? He could have won 6 rings with Tyronn Lue. And you know what? I will say this. Popovich, I think, should be considered as the greatest head coach of all time because he had a ton of stars on his team, but not like superstar caliber guys with the exception of Tim Duncan. The only thing with him is that he knew how to organize and use those guys properly. That's why I think Greg Popovich should be considered the greatest coach of all time, because if you put anybody else in that scenario with those players, they probably would have had Tim Duncan take over the team, but that just wasn't Tim Duncan's mindset, but just, you know, kind of hypothetically speaking. So, like, I don't think you would have gotten 5 rings out of those teams with any other head coach. But like even now, like we're talking about how great Popovich is. Where have the Spurs been in the past 3 years? Even with DeMar DeRozan and all these guys. And Dan, I know that you said I see you turning off the mute button. I know you're ready to say something. I know DeMar DeRozan's plus minus is gonna, you know, say something else, and we talked about this in the last episode. But like he's still I don't know if he's past his prime. He's not an all-star. Like his Raptors days are, you know, well behind him. You know, I mean, Popovich isn't going to do a ton with like DeJounte Murray and
look at that team. Pieces. Yeah, look at it. Rudy Gay's starting still. You just look at that, you know.
Yeah, but if Popovich is so great, he could turn it around. You know, like I make all these. Playoffs. Yeah, like like at least maybe as an 8th seed, because we look at this.
They were the 10th seed. They made the playoffs. Yeah,
because like if you look at the NFL, head coaches are way more valued. I would love to have Mike Tomlin coach the Giants because he made Delvin Hodges look really good. as a third string quarterback. So head coaches are not nearly as valued in the NBA as they are in other sports.
Then what about the Hawks with Nate McMillan?
All right. Well, I know you mentioned Nate McMillan and everything, and you know what? He has turned it around. And sometimes, a coach kind of defines a culture, but not in every case. Like, I just think that sometimes maybe teams have fluke years. We'll look at Eric Spoelstra. I don't know how this dude still has a job. I really
He's
don't.
phenomenal. What do you?
He's not
What the
phenomenal.
hell?
He had one great run last year. They are bubble frauds. We've
No
been
way.
talking about this all night. The exact same team, literally, virtually the same team on paper, could not beat the Bucks in one game. And and they were a 6th seed. Tyler Hero has been nowhere to be found this season. They were a fraud. I don't know how Eric Spoelstra's had a job. After LeBron left, it has been rough going for the Heat. I remember they made one playoff series, I think in 2017, and Dwayne Wade's last ever playoff run. They were like middle of the pack after LeBron left, when, before Chris Bosh started getting blood clots. But like, all in all, I think it's time to move on from Eric Spoelstra in Miami. And I think the same could be said with Popovich in San Antonio, although they're not going to get rid of him. He's going to die before they get rid of him.
So you're basically telling me, like, you would prefer someone that basically is a yes man to whatever star they got?
I'm not saying I prefer them. I think I definitely think guys like
personally,
Popovich, okay,
like they're probably like the last 2 remaining guys I would actually put their foot down against players. And honestly, like,
him and LeBron always went at it, Spoelstra and LeBron.
Yeah, but
because he
true,
wasn't a yes man.
True. At the end of the day, though, you have to realize, like, they're probably the last remaining 2 that would actually like basically have a system to where it's team basketball. At the end of the day, like, I'm even like.
I think Doc Rivers. I think Doc Rivers would be a little. I think he'd be in there.
I'll say this. I don't know why the Clippers got rid of Doc Rivers, and I think they're gonna suffer the consequences in the end, especially in this series coming up. Because I like Doc Rivers. I think that they just needed more time to mold. They completely revamped their team last season. I think he needed more time to mold that team together with Kawhi and Paul George. But
Doc Rivers is a choker. He's a choker artist. His teams always have been. Even when he coached. Who did he coach before the Clippers? Didn't he coach him before with Chris Paul and stuff? And he was always blown.
Yeah, he did, but didn't he win titles in Boston?
One title with those 3. And then he blew Game 7 against the Lakers. They were about like 20 or something in Game 7. And Phil Jackson in the huddle said, going into the 4th quarter, "Don't worry, boys. They blow leads. That's what they do." And sure enough, they blew the lead. That is unbelievable. That you tell your team that, and sure enough, they blow the lead. That is great. That just shows Doc Rivers losing in the 2nd round to the Atlanta Hawks will be the most Doc Rivers thing he's ever done. That would be after, winning in 5, just because Embiid got hurt. That would be so Doc Rivers-esque if they lose to the Hawks. That would just be, I don't even know. It's just Doc Rivers. It's just, I don't even know what to say about that. I mean, they blew the 3-1 lead last year in a bubble. Dude, it's just Doc Rivers is, unfortunately. I mean, he's just X's. I mean, his defenses are good, but his X's and O's are to be questioned.
If you're putting it that way, dude, I would not be shocked if Atlanta somehow pulls some Miami Heat miracle from 2020 and somehow steamroll the Sixers. Do you believe?
Listen. This is what I think with the Heat. They overperformed last year and underperformed this year. They adjust, and they found out the rules to Duncan Robinson and how to slow him down. Jimmy Butler, obviously, they had a very short offseason, like I said. And Goran Dragic, I mean, he's just not the same player. I mean, if you look at the bubble, Goran Dragic, that guy was going off. But that's just not him anymore. Injuries have taken his toll. He's an older guy now. Bam Adebayo has no jump shot. So they just figured, all right, we'll just let him catch it 10 feet away. He's not going to do anything. And Andre Iguodala is just another year older. And, I mean, Udonis Haslam's like the assistant coach. So, I mean, it worked for Juwan Howard. I would give him credit. Juwan Howard's a great coach at Michigan now. But maybe Udonis Haslam will be the next coach for the Heat.
Honestly, like, you're not wrong. You're not wrong there. But moving line along, guys. speaking of coaches, speaking of media, let's talk about our fans. I'm not gonna lie, but not our fans. I'm talking about the NBA fans. Like the NBA has been going hella crazy ever since they were able to get back into arenas. Like for example, in MSG, we got Knicks fans spitting on Trae Young. There's people in Philly throwing popcorn at Russell Wilson. I mean Russell Westbrook. Jesus Christ. But you get what I'm saying, man. We're getting to that point where we're just getting a little bit too over ourselves, a little bit too cuckoo in the head. Like I think like in the last game, I'm not sure which game this was, but some guy managed to get onto the actual court.
No, it was the Wizards game. Yeah,
and then they got speared.
Yeah, the one kid I teach, he was at the game. Yeah, the photo of the guy running by him.
That's crazy. That is crazy. But
Wizards Sixers, yeah.
I just wanted to get you guys' opinions on that. Like, do you believe like us as fans or the fans that actually did the events, do you think they're gonna ruin it for everybody else, especially coming off of COVID? Like, the NBA may potentially ban us for one more season. And I just wanted to get your guys' opinion on that. Like, are we taking this too far? Jack, we'll start off with you.
All right, listen. I'm gonna look dead into the webcam right now. I want to talk to any of you guys who plan on going to any NBA playoff games this year. Don't do stupid stuff. Do you not learn? Let me tell you right now. You throw a popcorn kernel at Russell Westbrook, you're gonna get banned from the stadium or from the arena rather. It's basic stuff. You know what? Look, I know it's been a year since we've been able to attend live sports. I completely understand that. Like there's an ambiance that you miss there. I love seeing fans in the crowd now. Like it's really drawn me back to the NBA and the playoffs this year. I personally speaking, the bubble was unwatchable for me last year. I didn't watch any NBA games last year because I hate the fake pumped in artificial crowd noise. Like if a guy hits a big like buzzer beating, it's the same decibel level as if somebody's just dribbling down the court during a 70-30 blowout, like during a game. It's not entertaining. I love having fans back, but this isn't the 80s and 90s anymore. Like at a hockey game, you can't throw stuff at players and get away with it anymore. You're gonna get banned. People are I feel like a lot of people are doing it for the clout. But you're still going to get banned from your favorite team's arena. Don't try to do anything stupid. Don't drink too much when you go to these things, because I think that's what might be leading a lot of people to be doing this. I thought it was hilarious, though, when Russell Westbrook got the popcorn thrown at him, just because of the way he overreacted. He had to be held back by like 5 guys, as if he's actually going to climb his little body. Well, I mean, he's taller than me, but his little body by NBA standards up into the crowd and go and beat this guy up. Come on. This isn't 2004, and you're not Ron Artest. All right, you're not gonna do anything. But overall, these are guys who are literally just like any other person doing a job. All right. At the end of the day, the NBA is a job. They're doing their job. There's nothing personal. These aren't bad people. Trae Young isn't a bad person, so don't spit on him. Even though he plays for a team and that just so happens to be in a different region of the United States than your team plays for.
Sorry to interrupt you, Jack, but I don't know if you also heard about the racial slurs being said to Donovan Mitchell. I did hear a little bit about that.
Yeah, just unnecessary, completely unnecessary things to be saying, especially in today's. I know we say we don't get political on this show, and I think that we've stuck pretty well to our guns with that. You can't say things like that in 2021. It's not right. It's not the right thing to do. It's a different world. You can't do it. You just got to be respectful to people. So, I mean, just have fun. There's a lot of ways you can have fun. You can heckle these guys. You just don't have to bring their race, ethnicity, gender, whatever. You don't have to bring that into it. It's funny when Kyrie comes out of the tunnel in Boston in 2017 and somebody's like, "Hey, Kyrie, where's LeBron?" And then, he said what he said. I'm trying to keep this show PG. So, but yeah, it's just unnecessary.
Dan, what say you?
Well, I like what Russell Westbrook said, man. After the game, He said, listen, this guy ain't going to come up to me on the street and dump popcorn on my head because he knows what's going to happen. And that's what I said. So these, like Charles Barkley said, hey, you really want to pick a fight with these guys? I say let them, like Charles Barkley said, bring them on down. Bring them on down. Let them fight these guys at the end of the game. That, kind of like people, that's why they go to these hockey games, man. I mean, hockey's the best sport to be at. It's live. It's fantastic. But, like, people love the fights. So if you really want to fight a player, if you really think you're going to beat his ass, then come on down. Because I guarantee they're not going to. Listen, I've stormed some courts in West Virginia, and these dudes, they're big. All right? You don't think they're big because they're all big. But when you go down, you're like, yeah, this dude, he would literally, most of these guys will just pick somebody up like our size, us common 6-footers, and just throw us around like it's nothing, all right? Unless you're Isaiah Thomas. So, listen, nobody wants to, these people think they're tough because they know they got security, and none of the, like Jack said, he's not going to climb up there and do anything, obviously, because there's a million security guards and injuries and such. But it's just like, dude, like, we all know you wouldn't do this on the street. You're not going to walk up to Donovan Mitchell and say some stuff like that to his face. So just don't, like, I just don't understand what the point is to say it. You can do what Spike Lee does, just talk a lot and then just lose, be the reason your team loses. I mean, that's always fun.
And then cry a little bit.
And then cry a little bit, right? Reggie Miller just poop all over your team, and then you just cry about how, it's your fault because you just talk too much, It's just, that's fine. That's fun. Players like that. It's good. It's interactive, like Trae Young. Other than the spitting, he gave a little bow, said, all right, see you later. The shush, that's cool. You hear the heckling, but, I mean, hey, you just gotta tone it down with everything else, because at the end of the day, like, these fans aren't going to do it in person. If they saw him on the street, they'll probably be, oh my God, let me get a photo. And then they'll try to act all tough, So at the end of the day, I just don't even see the point. Just have respect. Like Jack said, it's just their job anyway. So just have respect. I mean, obviously they're making millions, but just have respect and, just be cordial, man. But just be happy that you're back in it. I don't think they're going to ban fans, Youssef, because that's a lot of money. That's a lot of revenue, and they're not going to lose that. So they don't make enough on ads. Not on regular season ads, at least. No one's sitting there on a January night going, let me tune into the Kings versus Pelicans. That'll be a real bad.
Yeah, I know we don't make enough. I know we don't make enough money on ads. So you think even these guys don't. So I mean, well, they're obviously making a lot more money than we are on ads. But
well, let me go watch the 10-25 Pelicans take on the 5-30 Timberwolves. Like, no one's gonna really tune into that. So it's. I guess the Pelicans are kind of decent now. So let's just do Kings versus Timberwolves. No one's really going to tune in as far as ad revenue. So you might get like 10,000 people or so, like just kind of like, I'll go to the game. Why not? Because the tickets are only $5. So that's the, I don't think they're going to ban anybody, or other than the people who actually do it, obviously. But fans in general, I don't think they'll do that unless another pandemic happens.
All right. True that. But now, guys, I want to get your opinions. We all know round 2 started early with the Sixers and Atlanta. Of course, Atlanta won, so they're leading the series. But I want to get y'all's predictions on the conference semifinals. Dan, we'll start off with you.
Oh, okay. Nets also. Don't forget, Youssef. Nets Bucks started yesterday.
Of course.
James Harden out for game 2. Will be big. Listen, the Bucks lost DiVincenzo last series, though. Huge loss. I know it's kind of, people are like, if you're kind of like a casual, you're like, who's the heck's that? But this guy, he's a solid role player. He's a starter actually for them normally. And that's just just depth that they're losing. So this guy's a solid player. You can have him guard Kyrie. You could have him guard Joe Harris. So they lose him. I think it'll be a good series, man. I think I've said it multiple times. Whoever wins, that's coming out of the East for sure. I got to stick with the Bucks. I mean, I picked the Bucks in the beginning. And I got to stick with the Bucks, even though they lost game 1. Chris Middleton had like his worst game of the playoffs, so I think they'll be all right. I think they'll win game 2, especially with Harden out. It'll be interesting to see what how the Nets adjust, what they do with that. I mean, Kyrie played 44 minutes. I mean, I don't know if he can sustain that. Him and KD, 44, 43, I think. And that's just a lot of minutes to play. So I don't know if they can sustain that over 7 games. So I got the Bucks. I think it'll go 7 for sure. just because the Nets are, I mean, they're crazy offensive talented. Then we got Clippers Nuggets, right? Yeah. I mean, tough to doubt my guy Jokic, but MVP front runner. But I believe in the Clippers, as I said. I believe in Harvey Dent. So I think the Clippers take this one. I think they take it in. Honestly, I think they take it in probably 6. I think they'll kind of lock it in here, and I think they'll make the Western Conference Finals. I think the Clippers can beat the Jazz. I don't know. Wait, yeah. Wait. Oh no,
Yeah,
the Clippers are
the
playing.
Jazz. The Clippers are playing the Jazz. You're right.
Oh, the Clippers are playing the Jazz.
Yeah, they were the 4th seed, the 3rd and 2nd seed.
Oh, okay. Oh,
Denver.
okay. Clippers are
Yeah.
playing the Jazz. Oh, wow. Okay. Right. Oh, yeah. Suns are playing the Nuggets. Okay, I got mixed up. My fault. Okay, so that Western Conference Final, Clippers Nugget. No, I'm just kidding. I was just previewing for that. No. I actually think the Jazz will win. I think the Jazz got it, and I think they're the favorite. I think they have like 3 to 4 All-Stars. Joe Ingles, this guy's shooting out of his friggin' shoes right now. I mean, this guy's crazy, his shooting percentage. And as long as Spider Mitchell stays healthy, I think they got it locked. I think it'll be a good series, though. I think it'll. I want to say it'll go the full 7, just because the Clippers are they got a solid team. If the role players start playing, because Serge Ibaka's kind of been, his back's been bothering him. He just doesn't look the same. Suns Nuggets, that's a good series, man. I want to see Jokic go to the Western Conference Finals. If they had Jamal Murray, I'm picking the Nuggets. Without Jamal Murray, I gotta go Suns, because I think the Suns, after they beat the Lakers, I think they're just on such a high right now. Like Cameron Payne, like I said, Mikal Bridges, these guys played so out of their mind. I think they just have so much confidence. So I think they're going to win it. I think they'll win in, 6 would probably be a good bet. They'll win on the road like they did again against LA. So I think Jokic will give it all they can handle. I mean, this guy is like, you've seen guards that do the stuff he does. I think it was game 2 or 3. This dude, they're down like 9-2 to the Blazers. What does he do? He just says, I'll just take the ball up and just jack up 2 threes in a row. Swish. Like, it's a center, man. What? Who does that as a center? But Jokic, man, he does it. So I remember before Larry Bird, it was all centers for winning MVP. And then like after Larry Bird, it was like Michael Jordan and more like wing players. And now Jokic. But he's like a wing player almost. Like he's like a wing center. It's crazy. Like you said, point center. So it's like, it's crazy to just see a center. This is how you can win MVP as the center. Just be Jokic. No problem. It's easy. So, and then the Sixers Hawks. I think this is the toughest series to pick because I don't think Embiid's 100%. And I really believe in the Hawks. I really do. So this is my toughest pick. I think I'm going to go upset city. I guess the Nets losing would be upset. But I think Eastern Conference is upsets. I think Bucks and I think Hawks. I think Hawks will win game 6 on a home court and pull it out. I think 4-2 series dub. Trae Young's too much to handle. I think Trae Young, just that high pick and roll. If Embiid, we'll see if they keep Simmons on him. That'll be interesting to see the adjustments Doc Rivers over there makes. But I'm a believer in Nate McMillan and that team. I think their just confidence right now is more than the Sixers have, especially with Embiid kind of having that injury. But hey, they got future Hall of Famer Danny Green, so anything's possible. Anything's possible with future Hall of Famer Danny Green out there. So 7 threes in a quarter or whatever in a game in the finals. Who knows? He could turn that. Danny Green could show up again. So who knows? But I got the Hawks. I got the Hawks.
All right, I'll continue on from there because you kind of went for the series that I was actually kind of enjoying. Honestly, for the Sixers to win this, they would need Embiid healthy and ready to go. But not only that, have Ben Simmons on Trae Young the entire time. That's what I wanted the Knicks to do, to find like an assignment to get Trae Young, and they failed. I don't want to see the Sixers do that, but they now finally, like after game 1, they're probably on duty adjustments to lock them down in Philly, hopefully win game 2. But it all depends how Embiid plays and how he's playing off this injury. like we said before prior, like the injury bugs are kind of like hitting all the main stars here. And if Joel Embiid's not fully healthy, then I'm going to have to give it to Atlanta. Like you said, like give or take, I would give it like game 6 upset to where Atlanta wins. And honestly, it's probably going to be like from Trae Young going off and all the role players stepping up. Because at the end of the day, they still need to figure out like how do you contain Trae Young at the end of the day. Of course, they figured out with Simmons. Simmons even said in his post conference that he has to be more physical with him. Like he basically, by the time they got to a point, it was too late. Like they were on a run. There was nothing stopping them. So I have Atlanta pulling the upset if Embiid stays, if Embiid is hurt. Now going on to the Milwaukee Bucks and Brooklyn Nets game. Honestly, I'm gonna have to go with Brooklyn. Brooklyn is probably gonna pull something out of their hat where Kyrie and KD are just gonna take over. Of course, James Harden would help them more, but I just feel like they don't have no containment for KD. Kyrie, if he keeps going off like he was, I know they're probably gonna adjust the minutes. Well, how are they gonna stop that? I mean, you have Giannis, yes, but you also have Drew Holiday that has to also step up as well. But not only that, all basically your entire team has to step up because the Brooklyn Nets basically they only have like maybe 5 or 6 players compared to the 12 that Milwaukee has. It's basically a war of attrition. Who's gonna outscore who at this point? And I don't like how they're playing to Brooklyn's level. That's why I say Brooklyn is probably gonna pull this upset with dramatic leads. So going on to the West, the Suns and Nuggets. Now, I would say Nuggets right off the bat if they had Jamal Murray, but honestly, I have to go with Phoenix. I say give or take a game 5 situation where the Suns take it home. It's just too much. It's just too much in the guard area where Denver has to try and contain. Everywhere else is perfect, but I just feel like there's too much foul power with Chris Paul being the facilitator and Devin Booker being Devin Booker. I mean, have you seen what the man did against LA? Like, who knows? He might do the same thing with Denver. But I have the Phoenix Suns winning in game 5.
Denver's
Now,
Denver's got even more injuries. Will Barton and PJ Dozier are still out. So they got like 2 guards
really,
left, man, unless those guys come back.
but either or, honestly, with my last pick, it has to be with the Jazz. And the only way for me to say they win this in 5 games, the Jazz have to kill LA basically by the first 3 games. If they let LA win at least one of those games, we may have a series on our end. I know Kawhi basically proved that with the Mavericks. Like basically, if you give the Clippers too much like leeway, they're just gonna come back and bite you in the end. But I feel like the Jazz can do it. They have a full healthy team. Donovan Mitchell's gonna pop off. Hopefully Rudy Gobert does his part. Joe Ingles and so on and so forth. I just feel like it's just too much for LA to handle. They really don't have that many stars. They have veterans, but these veterans are showing their true age. And Father Time basically told them like it's time to go, and this might be it for him. Now, don't get me wrong, Kawhi can just prove us all wrong again and just be the claw that we know and love. And hopefully, playoff P doesn't show up. But I like how Paul George is somehow showing up this time in the playoffs instead of last year. But either or, it's a bit too much for them. I say Jazz win in 5.
You don't believe in Nicholas Batum?
Nah.
No Batum Kaboom.
Nah, man.
Uh,
I'm a jazz man when it comes to that series, man. I'm sorry.
all right. Was that all 4? I know I left for a moment.
Yep, that was all for it. Jack is all on you.
All right. You know what? I was playing with this chair and now I can't raise it. All right. You know what? We'll just do this with my chin touching the bottom of the screen. So we'll start in the Eastern Conference. Nets Bucks. Dan, you're out of your mind. All right. Nets are winning the whole thing. So obviously I'm going to say Nets in 6. All right. I think obviously this is going to be a good series. It's going to be fun. The Bucks are going to win some games in this. I just think that the big three is too much to overcome. They did show glimpses in those last two games against Boston that they can, and actually no, not against Boston. The last game against Boston, and then this last game they played against Milwaukee yesterday, that they can play good defense when they want to. I think Durant had a lot of issues matching up against Tatum, and I think that was kind of the big problem for them when it came to playing Boston. Other than that, obviously they did very well. But even so, I just think that there's too much star power on the Nets. This is looking just like the 15-16 Warriors, and I think that they would have had the record to back it up if they didn't have so many injuries this year and if the big three played more games together. So I'm going to say Nets in 6 in that one. I love Antetokounmpo, but I just don't think that they can get it done in a series like this, whether Antetokounmpo thinks that he's going to be playing with his food or not. So other side on the Eastern Conference, we got Hawks, Sixers. Now, look, I'm going to agree with Dan. This entirely goes on whether or not Embiid is healthy. I think it's probably going to go to, I feel like if Embiid is healthy, this goes to maybe 5 games, maybe 6. I think that the Hawks can pull off an upset, but it's going to have to be on their home court. I don't think that the Sixers are losing game 2. I don't think they're going to lose at home again in this series. So I'm going to say if Embiid is healthy, obviously probably a Sixers win. I still think they might have a shot at pulling it out, even if Embiid isn't healthy. I think that Ben Simmons can carry the load, despite kind of poor performance in game 1. But overall, I think odds are Sixers win this series. Western Conference. Like you guys said, if Jamal Murray was healthy, this would be an entirely different conversation. But the way that Booker's been playing, the CP3 effect has been in full swing, and we saw it in that first series. I just got to go with the Suns in this one. I think 6 games is going to be a fun series to watch. Nuggets are still a highly competitive team, but you know what? I think that the Blazers were a lot weaker than I think that we think that they are. Like, they've been running with that McCollum and Lillard game for so long, and Yusuf Nurkic and all these other guys, and Carmelo Anthony. I just think that we gave the Blazers more credit than we did I think it says more about the Nuggets than it does about the Blazers. So I'm gonna have to go with I'm gonna have to go against them in this series. Next one, Yusuf, I agree with you when it comes to the Clippers. 5 games, they're not gonna make it. Playoff P is gonna choke in the series. I see it coming. I do not believe in the Clippers. I had hope for them when this whole team formed last year. They were lucky to get out of this series today. I don't know how, it just baffles me that the Mavs just let this sit, and then it finally blew up in their face at the end. They had a 2-0 lead in this series with 2 home games coming up, and they still couldn't get the job done. So I think that the Clippers were just lucky to escape. I love the claw. I as a Nets fan, I don't even like the Raptors, but I loved it when they beat the Warriors in 2018. But I just don't think that they can get the job done. I see that team dissolving. The fact that Tyronn Lue is their head coach is going to show also. No matter how many good pieces they have. And no, I do not believe in Nicholas Batum. They're not going to get it done. So yeah, that's definitely going to be. And plus, I think the Jazz, low key, are one of the most complete teams in the NBA. Even without Donovan Mitchell, they still kept that number 1 seed because Mitchell was out for a while. You got Rudy Gobert, Joe Ingles, and why is nobody talking about 6th man of the year, Jordan Clarkson? I don't understand. I love Jordan Clarkson. He averaged 18 points a game this season. He's such an underrated piece on this team. Like Kobe said, this man does not dunk like a light-skinned dude. So love Jordan Clarkson. Love this entire team. With Spida Mitchell, this is a team that's definitely going to make it to the Western Conference Finals. Maybe the NBA Finals? I don't know. I think that the Suns are going to put up I think that is, if it's going to be Jazz Suns, it's going to be a fun series to watch in the West. So those are my predictions.
Best home court so far, I'd have to say.
Absolutely.
Game 2 MSG, Yusuf, I think that was the best home crowd I've seen. They willed them to that dub. That one Knicks win they got, that was all that MSG crowd, man.
I know, man. I'm just hoping to see other crowds pull that off too, man. But
Need more people. We need more people. Staples Center got to upgrade. 8,000 is not going to get it done.
hey, man, it's all due to how their COVID situation's going over there. I know we're getting out of that whole stage. I know I'm fed up with it. You're fed up with it. Jack's fed up. The rest of the crew, especially the fans, are fed up with it. But everything's getting back to normal. So
I just have what is with the players? Some of the players on the bench, like, why do they have to wear a mask? That's just like
it's got to be protocol.
I
It's
see
protocol at that
Giannis
point.
go to the bench and he has a mask, and I'm like, bro, you just like touched all those guys though, so it wouldn't even matter if you did it.
It's just, I guess they're still trying to set an example for the rest of the country. I don't know. Like if you're double
I'm like,
vaccinated,
dude, just ditch the mask. I think it's weirder than it is like normal.
at this point, I think it's like, oh, hey, if you don't get double vaccinated, you still got to wear this stupid thing. Like that's kind of what it boils down to.
Hey, man, it got to the point.
I was laughing real quick. You'd see like the coaches in the bubble. They got like the mask on, and then they go, yeah, and then they just start talking to the ref right next to them without the mask. And I'm like, what's the point of it then? They're in the huddle without the mask, and I'm like, dude, why do you even have it on?
I don't know, man. I'm still trying to like figure out like why they're still doing the. Well, I get it because a lot of people are still not vaccinated, but like I'm still trying to figure out why they're having vaccinated tickets and then unvaccinated tickets.
Yeah.
Like, if I'm vaccinated or not, I want to watch your game at the end of the day. Like, don't try and push me away. I know because it's protocol. I get it,
It's
guys.
the mask for the
but,
players. That's all I'm saying, man.
but geez, like at the end of the day. But I'm gonna leave it. I'm gonna leave it to a question, Jack. I want you to give a question to our viewers at home. Like you have one that you want to send them off with?
I do have a question for our viewers, and this doesn't have to be for, who won a series, who lost a series, just about the best player. We were going to do a discussion on this, but I guess we're kind of running out of time. So, ladies and gentlemen in the comment section, who was your NBA playoffs round 1 MVP? Let me know. Let us know. I'm curious. Mine, it was Luka, but despite the loss in the series, that man put the team on his back. Not his fault. Like you said, man, I wish he had a number 2, but yeah. So Luka Doncic. Let me know, guys.
All right, guys. But that's it. That's it for us. As always, guys, it's been a pleasure. It's been another Crunch Time episode. We'll see you on the next one.
See y'all later.